And now I'm talking to Deirdre Fallon. Deirdre is a senior planner at Fingal County Council. Deirdre, how's it going? Deirdre, can you tell me more about this information evening here in Blanchardstown Library?
Certainly, we've organised it because we have a draft urban area plan for Dunsink out on public display. So we're keen for people to come along, have a look at the plan and talk to staff if they have any questions, and then to make a submission to the draft plan so that it can be taken into account before the plan is finalised. The plan itself is for a large area that's zoned for a mix of housing uses, but also for a lot of open space for employment. And so the plan has been trying to work out the best way for these lands to develop into the future. So there's a lot of proposals there, and to say while it's out on display, we're really keen for people to have their say and to make a submission so it can be taken into account before the plan is finalised.
And there seems to be a lot of people that have come to the consultation tonight, aren't there?
There has. The attendance has been really good this evening. We've had a lot of local residents and people who are interested have been coming along to look at the plans and to have kind of questions answered. And yeah, the turnout has been really good.
And a few councillors as well, haven't they?
Yes, there has. A number of the elected members have come along this evening too.
And in terms of going forward, I don't know if you're going to have another information evening, or if you do, when it's going to be, but what are the next steps for the public in Dublin 15 going forward, do you know?
So people can continue to view the plan, and they can make a submission to the council until the 5 p.m. on the 31st of July. Once that date passes, the council will do a report on all of the submissions. So they'll look at the issues that people have raised. They look into those. They make recommendations if there's any changes proposed then for the plan. And that report, it's called a Chief Executive's report, is then given to the elected members, and they will consider that report and the draft plan and vote then on whether to adopt the plan or whether to make any other changes to the plan before it's finalised. Now, the plan is a great opportunity to provide new housing in Dublin. There's so many people in need of a home, so it's a great opportunity to provide those homes and also to provide other facilities. For example, it's proposed to provide a new regional park on the former landfill site and along the Talca Valley, so they would be great assets for the area. It's also proposed to provide a recreational hub up at Dunsink too, so that would be a fantastic asset and opportunity to provide, new facilities for people who are living here, both existing people who are living here and the new community that's going to be living in the area.
But it will take another few years before some of the first homes are actually built, will it? Yeah.
Well, the plan has to be finalised first, and then people would need to apply for planning permission before anything gets built. So it's likely to be a kind of couple of years, 2 or 3 years perhaps, before anything starts on the land. And it's a long-term plan. It's a very large area, so it's likely to be maybe up to 15 years, before it's all built out.
And now I'm talking to Ted Leddy. Ted is one of the 2 Fingal councillors for Castleknock. Ted, how's it going?
Very good, thanks, and thanks for offering to do the interview. I was happy to do that.
Okay, Ted, have you learned much here at the information evening about the development of Dunsink?
Yeah, well, it's getting a bit more easy to conceptualise it when you see the diagrams, and it's a bit more practical in terms of visualisation. And look, it's a very exciting project. It's the biggest development really in the country at the minute, and if done well, it can be a real model for good planning and delivering quality housing. Look, it's a 1,000-acre site. We could deliver as much as 18 or 20,000 homes if it's done right, with good community services and good supports and schools and good infrastructure, and that's what we want to see.
Do we have the property developers or builders in Dublin to build it? Do you know?
Yeah, well, I think about 10% of the land is owned by Castletorn. And in terms of the rest of the development, there will be a tendering process, and I would expect that to be very robust. I would expect that many people will be bidding for it, and they wouldn't be bidding if they didn't have the workers.
And as regards housing in general in Dublin, and I don't know about other parts of the country as much, but do we have enough builders? Because as well as that, there's a huge shortage of construction workers, isn't there?
Yeah, again, but it would be one of the requirements of a bid that you have those workers. So With this particular project, I'm not concerned.
Okay, now I'm talking to Councillor John Walsh, the Labour Party councillor for Castleknock, and he also stood for the Labour Party in Dublin West in the last general election. John, before we talk about the information evening here, how's life going to council? Because I understand that recently your party left the coalition you had with Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, didn't you?
That's right, Darren. I mean, things are going well. Firstly, I think there's been, I think we've had some. We've made good progress with the programme of works, for example, locally. There's positive stuff going on in terms of the operational budget. But yeah, recently I suppose we'd formed a pact with Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael directly after the general election. That broke down. Last year. We had a number of differences with Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael relating to the need for essential infrastructure to support housing development. We've significant differences with the government over housing policy, and the government generally supports developer-led planning. We want to see community-led planning that delivers affordable housing supported by strong infrastructure, so we develop sustainable communities and not simply disconnected or isolated housing estates. And then secondly, we had significant differences with the government parties. We had significant differences with the government parties over the increase in local authority rents. That's something that would not have happened if the Labour Party had stayed in the pact. We would not. We refused to vote. We would not vote for a budget that included such a dramatic increase in local authority rents. The initial proposal was a 40% increase. We fought against that. Eventually it was reduced to a 20% increase. Still, really a really harsh and unacceptable increase in the context of the council, the cost of living crisis. So we voted against that, and it was actually we sought an adjournment of the budget. I proposed that. It was very narrowly defeated. We favour an expansive budget. We wanted to see a budget that was properly funded, that supported local services, but we wanted the increase in local authority rents removed from it. But that was narrowly defeated by Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, and Aon Tú were actually the decisive votes. Aon Tú, in the end, voted with the government parties to vote through the increase in local authority rents. I was disappointed by that. I thought it was a bad decision by an opposition party.
You might have to yourselves in the Labour Party and Fingal kind of go at your own for a few years, really, because like the parties on the left, the other parties, there's on some issues there's not really any common ground, is there?
Well, there's some common ground with, particularly with Social Democrats and Greens. We'll work together. We're willing to work together with parties across the council on a cross-party basis to achieve, constructive objectives, to ensure local services are properly funded, to get more funding for the operations budget, and to support, an inclusive, dynamic approach by Fingal Council. So, listen, we proposed Councillor Hopkins for mayor at the recent AGM. Councillor Hopkins obviously is a Social Democrat. We've also worked with Sinn Féin, the Sinn Féin group, to oppose the increase in local authority, in rents for local authority tenants. So, we're open to working with different parties across the political spectrum, provided obviously they're democratic parties.
Okay, just talking about the information evening here in Dunsink, can you tell me what you've learned here today and just your knowledge of this information event in general?
So this is a consultation event here in the Blanchardstown Library for the Dunsink urban area plan. It's an incredibly important plan. It's really important that we get it right. Dunsink is the largest remaining land bank in the Dublin area.
In Dublin in general, is it?
In County Dublin, in the County Dublin area. Okay. Yeah. I mean, up to 27,000 homes could be built in the Dunsink land bank. Now, understandably, there are real fears among some local communities. Like, there's real fears about Dunsink is strongly associated with the Dunsink dump. Which, I just want to be clear that in the draft plan, there's absolutely no proposal to build on the dump. The proposal is that would be a public park, and there wouldn't be building on the dump or close to it. So I think, firstly, it's a huge opportunity to create a flourishing urban quarter that is that has genuine sustainable communities with a mix of housing types, a mix of housing for young people, housing for families, and step-down housing for older people. I won't be supporting any proposal that involves large-scale, high-rise development or a development which isn't properly supported by infrastructure. So what I'm looking for in Dunsink really is two things above all. The first is a commitment to building really significant, affordable and social housing at scale, and that there's a wide range of housing types. So certainly not just a series of apartment developments, but a mix of family homes, apartments, and step-down housing for older people. Secondly, what I'm looking for is high-quality infrastructure built in right from the start, even before housing development, so we don't make the mistakes of the past in Dublin 15, where thousands of homes were built and we were left waiting years, if not decades, for schools or for proper public transport. We're still waiting for Dart West, 20 years on. So we need to avoid the mistakes of the past in Dunsink and be very conscious of the need to build a sustainable, flourishing community that is infrastructure-led and that puts community at its heart. And that means that it has to be community-led planning and not developer-led. But I think it is a big opportunity. We have to get it right, and I'll certainly be working with local communities to ensure that we have a sustainable, environmentally friendly, community-led development that has that builds affordable housing at scale to help solve the housing crisis, but also has a really strong, high-quality infrastructure.
And I'm talking to Patrick Quinlan, who is the National Party Councillor for Mulhuddart, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah. Blanchardstown-Mulhuddart's the local electoral area, yeah.
And you're actually only in the last year or so the leader of your party now, aren't you?
Yeah. very short answer, yes.
I think you're your only elected representative.
The only one so far.
Are you confident that in a general election with yourself, but also with your party in the future, you might grow more?
Realistically, yes, we would like to see rapid growth, but being totally realistic and remaining within the actual scope of what we're dealing with here, which is elections. People have to go to the ballot box, they have to vote for you, and we've a lot of sympathy on the doorsteps everywhere we go, and people like our message to hear what we have to say. They're on board with it. It's that translating to people actually going to the ballot box and voting, which is the tricky part, and I understand that's a tricky part for any political party to actually be able to get done. With ourselves, in terms of do we want general election seats? Absolutely, we want representation inside the Dáil Éireann. We believe that the Irish people should be represented inside the Dáil Éireann. On a local level, Yannick Urlitic over in Tallaght, he has been putting in great work on the ground, building connections locally. My nearest party colleague, Stephen Redmond, over on the Fingal side of the Dunsink urban area plan that I'm here today in Blanchardstown, just communicating with locals, getting feedback on their concerns, and he's been doing Trojan work over that side, and we have multiple representatives across the country, north, south, east and west. So it's a matter of you're building, and you want to be consistent in your messaging, but overall, fundamentally, I believe a lot of people who might hear this message also believe that they have been failed totally by the political establishment in this country, and that translates to any political party, and that's what's resulting in low voter turnouts. I know we had a high voter turnout in terms of a couple of elections, and particularly referendums and stuff like that, but it's given them that faith that, like, we're not just politicians. Like, I'm a working class young man. I'm 33 years of age. Never had any type of want or desire to get involved in local politics, and was very much just happy in my own lane. But when it came to a local development in the area, and people were concerned that it wasn't going to go to local people, and that's kind of how I ended up getting involved in local politics. But just to kind of summarise on the question, because it is a good question, we definitely do want more representation, and we believe that the Irish people need more representation. But in order to get ourselves, and I'm not talking about the context of a party, I'm on about the context of a people, to get ourselves proper representation in these offices of power, and we need, as a party, to consistently put back into people the belief that your elected representatives are there to represent you, and do it in such a way that is unapologetically pro-Irish.
And how are you finding, occasionally I see your videos on social media, how are you finding the other councillors in Fingal? The
first kind of couple of interactions, like, I just, I go in, do what I do, and say hello, and just say hello, coffees, go to town nice on the weekend, just be normal, I'm not going in like, mad dogging them, it'd be the term, like, that kind of way. Just going in, just interacting, being normal. But I did have one particular instance where a councillor stood over me, and won't name names, but a councillor did stand over me and call me some very mean names, and at the time, I just said, do you think that's the way for an elected official to act? Like, if you have a different worldview than me, if you have a different political opinion than me, do you not think it'd be more constructive to sit down and have a conversation about it, whereas there was no interest in doing stuff like that. The interest seems to be consistently shut down one side of the debate. We had the Labour councillor, name has escaped me, but we had a former mayor of Fingal, Brian, I think is his first name, and McDonough, I think is his surname, and he let the mask slip about a cordon sanitaire. Like, if they had it their way, I just wouldn't even be sitting on the council, but unfortunately we live in a representative democracy, and people vote the way they vote, and they voted me in.
Okay, we just move on. We're here at Blanchardstown Library, we bumped into one another. There's an information evening about the development of Dunsink. Like, I think personally this is going to be a great development if it happens, but like, what do you think and know of the development, Patrick?
So just a couple of things like that I've had in terms of, like, we done a engagement ourselves, myself and my party colleague Stephen Redmond on the Fingal side of the development, and we went in Spokesperson estate, knocked doors, petitioned, asked people to support the motion. The motion was effectively that the Dunsink that the Spokesperson lane would not be opened up to construction traffic or opened up at all. Well, the motion was specific to construction traffic, but that just wouldn't be opened up at all. It's kind of like the general sense that you get off people on the ground. Purest form of public consultation you could possibly do. An elected representative going in, having a conversation with people, getting signatures on a petition, submitted that into the local area committee alongside a motion, and it was defeated by one vote. So we had 6 for, 6 against, 3 abstentions if I recall correctly, and then obviously the chair had to decide in fact on it, and the motion fell.
Why don't you want that part to be developed?
Now, this is important. It's not about what I want, it's about what the people want, and the people don't want the rural feel, because Dublin is a very, very built up area. No one's going to argue that, and there's pockets of rural Dublin around the place, like Rush, Lusk, and then even out then towards Lucan, and the back roads of Blanchardstown out towards Lucan. Like, it's these small pockets of rural Dublin are just getting this type of treatment where, oh no, we need, there's national policy framework, there's national targets, and this is all driven by population growth. That's no secret. And unfortunately then, when it comes down to the planning and the opening up and zoning of lands, it's all these little pockets of rural Dublin and rural life in Dublin that are just being simply eradicated.
And the plan is to build on it, is it?
On Dunsink itself?
Yeah, no, on that road as well you're talking about.
So at this point in time, the process is the land has been opened up, and the long-term strategic land bank has been lifted. The land has been opened up. It's an urban area plan, and it's very much just at a planning stage at the moment. So what actually gets done in terms of roads being opened up, and the actual height of the development, the amount of units that get built and stuff like this. Like I've asked questions here today in terms of like what mechanisms are in place if the council fails on hitting its target of 2,500 units in phase 1, and what mechanisms are in place to hold the council and the developers accountable. And the very straight side answer I got was they're not aware of what mechanisms are in place. Yeah.
Okay, Patrick, have you learned any more here today from this information evening about Dunsink?
No, not really. Because, as I said, it is just an urban area plan. It's driven by population growth. In terms of what actually ends up getting done, it will be down to the locals putting pressure on the council in terms of making their submissions and stuff like that. But I've also been reliably informed that if some submissions aren't worded in a particular way and stuff like that, they'll essentially just be shelved. But in reality, what I would like to see at Dunsink is lots and lots of green space and lots of open space. Not opposed to building houses, not 15-storey apartment complexes. Like, I've been inside these places, I've had representations, constituents contact me, made representation on their behalf. You cannot raise children in the corridors of an apartment complex. I know the line will be, there will be playgrounds there, there will be a little bit of green space, but it does not give the same authentic Irish housing estate reared that I got as a child and that a lot of people got as children, like that we probably took for granted. Being able to go knick-knacking, jumping over the neighbour's wall, kick the can, pole to wall. But that's what I would like to see, is this development being relatively low scale, not massive heights being built, two stories, 3 stories max. I will be making a submission to that effect. But also then as well, like when it comes to the actual development and the need for housing, there seems to be a carte blanche on not talking about it. Immigration and population growth go hand in hand in this country. They're not willing to actually accept this reality. And with this, we have 18,500 units proposed to be built over the course of 3 decades. If we look at population growth year on year, it's about 73,000, I think, just rough math off the top of my head. And then you look at the actual development itself, 18,500 units. Let's say 3 people per unit. A development like Dunsink will need to be built every single year just in order to keep up with population growth that is overwhelmingly driven by non-Irish national immigration.